All right, you've made your way through one of the modules. You have some work products complete or nearly complete. So it's time to show off a little bit. We're going to put together the first part of your astrophotography portfolio. And we're doing this in the form of a blog for a number of reasons. But let me go through the general expectations of what we expect to see in these blogs. The bare minimum. These are the things that must be there. But I hope that you go beyond the bare minimum and have fun with these and be creative and make them exciting and interesting to read. Okay, the 4 things that have to be there. First of all, you have to have a detailed but concise, I'm going to use that phrase a lot, detailed but concise description of the observations that went into your work product. So you're presenting maybe a picture or a result. Where did you get your data? What telescopes? Perhaps what filters did you use? What exposure durations? How many exposures? If it was a mosaic, what kind of mosaicing pattern? If it was a radio observation, what kind of mapping pattern, etc. How did you collect your data? Okay. The second thing is a detailed but concise description of the processing steps. How did you get from your data to your final work product? And this will be both in words, but whenever you can, pictures are good. Instead of just showing the final picture, maybe you can show intermediate steps of how you got from your data to your final product. You want your reader to be able to understand what you went through to get your final product. Now, the third thing we're looking for is a description of the physical processes at play. And each module is different. The introductory modules have a little bit less of this. It's more about learning the skills, the processing steps. But the farther we go into the MW sequence, it's more about the science. Yes, we're making some cool astrophotography, but we're using it to do interesting things. And so what are the physical processes at play in your work product, which is usually an image? Sometimes this is just a qualitative description of the things going on in your image and explaining what's going on in terms of physical processes. But sometimes we do calculations. Sometimes we do modeling. We extract data from our images and model them. And so this will change on a module by module basis. Lastly, of the 4 minimal things that must be there, use of an informal, conversational, approachable writing style. This is why we chose a blog. This is what blogs are. They are informal and conversational presentations of information. So why did we settle on this? Because there are many science courses where they teach you formal technical writing. And that has its place. If you're going to become a researcher professionally, you need to learn how to do formal technical science writing. And when someone working at the cutting edge writes a paper and publishes it, it's not really like I'm an astronomer, a professional astronomer. I write papers. And when I write them, it's actually not for other astronomers. It's for other astronomers in my particular subfield. It's really specific. These papers may only be read by dozens, hundreds, if they're really good. But even though that's what I do as a career, I spend much, much more time writing in this other style. Sometimes I need to make it clear to my colleagues what I'm doing. Colleagues that don't work in my specific domain, but they work in other astronomical fields or subfields. Or maybe they're physicists, or maybe they're some other type of scientist, or maybe they're a non-scientist. Maybe they're a colleague in history or literature. And I need to be able to explain what I'm doing to them. Maybe they are sitting on a funding committee, and maybe I wrote a grant to the university. And you can imagine all sorts of different scenarios where you have to explain your work to people who are not domain experts. You're interviewing at a job, and they say, what did you do in this research experience that you had? And you have to explain a complicated technical subject in a way that the masses can understand. Science really needs more of this. Uh, we have this large population, and only a small fraction really understands what science is. And by being in this curriculum, you're not learning scientific facts, you are doing science. You're going through the process of figuring out the universe by collecting data, testing hypotheses. It's messy. Doing science is messy, and it's hard to convey to broad audiences, but so important. So this is a big emphasis of this course. The writing style that you use, again, informal, conversational, approachable. You want it to be exciting. Now, blogs are written for different audiences. So what is your audience? And for this course, the idea is your audience is other students who are also interested in astronomy. So you don't have to write it for like friends and family back home that have no STEM knowledge, perhaps. You're writing it for other people with an astronomy interest. They're already inherently interested in STEM, or at least this branch of STEM. Okay, it makes it a little bit easier. You're writing it to people who already have an interest. That's the idea. Now, if you want some examples, here we've been looking at this page. This is on my own page. I have a blog site. I went with Squarespace. A lot of people use WordPress. It doesn't matter what you use. Some universities, like my university, offers it to the students for free. Anyway, I pay for Squarespace. It's a little bit nicer than the free version my university offers to the students. And so as I was figuring out astrophotography for the first time, in preparation for this course, I'm not an astrophotographer. I've learned this for this course and for developing these tools. And we have our own brand of astrophotography that's very, it's not just about making pretty pictures, but we're going after science and physical interpretation. Anyway, as I was working through this for the first time, I'm working with a whole bunch of educators. So I kept a blog so they can learn from my experiences, and also I could remember what I did. And it's danreichert.com/afterglow-astrophotography. And you can get there, and there are a whole bunch of them here, but here's an example. Now, my audience was a little bit different. These were astronomy educators, and so I'm a little bit more technical than you will probably be. A nice feature here is I can show steps that I went through to create an image. And I can label them and I can refer to the steps. That's one way to approach it. Or here's another one. There's a whole bunch on this page, and so you can get some examples. And here you can see the steps that I went through for this one, etc. Okay. Now, the best ones, and not just at my university, all the universities who are doing MWU, the instructors will be looking at these blogs, and the best ones get featured on the MWU blog of blogs. MWU exclamation point, blog of blogs, exclamation point. It's that exciting. It deserves 2 exclamation points. And the address is danreichert.com/mbob. And Reichert's REICHART. Anyway, danreichert.com/mbob, MW Bob, blog of blogs, mbob. And so the best of the best ones will be sent by your instructors to me, and I'll select among them, and I'll put them here in the beginning of them, and then a link to the rest of it. So I hope to get a bunch of these from different universities. All right. Those are the general expectations and some examples, but each module has very specific requirements. And so if you go to the end of your module, there's always something called portfolio entry. You go down to that and to the bottom of that, and you'll see specifically for that module what we're looking for. So what I talked about in this video, the general expectations, you always want to keep those in mind, but you also want to look at the specific expectations for each module, each blog entry you produce. Okay, that's it.